Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Global Adventures. And if you've watched the program before, you know that this is JenettaBarry's favorite program. Let's bring her out. Hello.
Yay! It's that time again. Yay!
So why is this your favorite program?
I treat this program like one of my hobbies because I think we all work so darn hard that it's very easy to go, nah, I won't do this, I won't do that. And for me, this is one of my hobbies because I love traveling, and I've traveled quite extensively in my lifetime, not to as many places as I'd like to, but where I have traveled has always been significantly meaningful. So when I hear of other people's abilities and travels and experiences, I find it so uplifting. And so this show is about those people's experiences as they go around the world doing something significantly different to them, because when they share something that's inspired them with us, it's just so insightful. It takes you on a journey like no other. And it's not a travel program. It's not an education program in that you find about how animals coexist. It's not a David Attenborough type of program. It's even deeper than that. And so often one gets a deeply spiritual connection when our guests start sharing their experiences.
Thank you so much for that, Jenetta. Where in the world are you going to take us today?
Well, today I am the guest. And it's a follow-on from our last show. If you'd like to hear a little bit more about our last show, which was The Art of Mental Health Wealth, and we dealt with grief and spirituality and fine-tuning your ability to understand and see a bigger picture in the meaning of loss of a loved one, it could be quite inspiring for you if you're on that journey right now. And this is a follow-on to it. And both of these programs were birthed in this last week because I found myself burning out, and my darling husband said, right, here's the car, go and visit your friends, take some time out and just get away. And I have a very special friend of quarter of a century now. And in fact, we went to school together, but we weren't friends at school because I was quite a bit older than she. But we've been close friends for a quarter of a century. She's a very well-known authoress of 2 books. One's called The Ghosts of Happy Valley. And the other one is called Soy Sambu. And I really suggest you go and have a look at her books because she's an amazing writer. She's busy writing another one now. And she has 2 homes. And the one is on Soy Sambu, which is the name of that second book, where a lot of my book, Full Circle Rainbow, is set in the loss of my 16-year-old daughter, Jenny, to suicide. So the last program took us to Soy Sambu. It's such a magical, magical place. But this part is the journey up to Mount Kenya. And to get there from where I live in the Great Rift Valley, I went a back way on a very quiet road, thank goodness, not a busy road, because the driving here leaves a lot to be desired. and I was able to cross over the equator and get right up to the foothills of Mount Kenya. And Dr. Jacalyn, I don't know if you can share it. Is it
Yeah,
possible to bring up
absolutely.
the deck?
Sure.
It would be
Absolutely. Let's take a look.
fabulous. So every global adventure, wherever we're being taken, 2 weeks ago, my husband Andy, it was Andy's Lapland. Today it's Jenetta's Mount Kenya. And Mount Kenya is a very interesting place to visit. It's the second highest mountain. So to give you an idea of where it is on that map, as you can see, there's Nairobi right there. And there's Mombasa, which I mentioned in, let me have a look. Yeah, there's Mombasa, which I mentioned in the last show. And here are all the different lakes. These are the Great Rift Valley lakes. That's, by the way, Dr. Jacalyn, Lake Victoria, which is enormous. When you're on it, you think you're on the ocean. You can't see any land and you're in the middle of that lake. It's only showing part of the lake because the lake is shared by Uganda to the north, Kenya to the east, and Tanzania to the south. So that lake, Victoria, is shared by 3 countries. That's what was Lake Rudolph and is now known as Lake Turkana. It's really in the middle of nowhere. And as you can see, it goes in near Sudan and Ethiopia. Sudan is where there's quite a lot of action going on at the moment. But this is where our story is today. And by the way, we live here. So I had to travel from here right up past near Haruru Falls, which used to be called Thompson's Falls, who was one of the explorers of Africa, and on our way to a place called Nanyuki. That's Nanyuki there. And this is where Mount Kenya is. Nanyuki and that area are all in the foothills of Mount Kenya. And that's where our story is going today. It's an
Jenetta?
exceptional story. Yes.
Sorry, we do have a comment from someone over on your LinkedIn. I don't know if you know
There
this
you
person.
go. From Uganda. Chilangwa Mukuka. Hi, Prince. It's lovely to have you with us again. And welcome, Karibu, as we say in Swahili, for all our other people who are wondering what I'm actually speaking. Karibu means welcome, by the way, in Swahili. So yes, here we go. We're going to be journeying there. And I got to just short of Nanyuki. That is Mount Kenya from quite far up, as you can see. It used to be permanently covered in snow with, like Mount Kilimanjaro, with global warming, it only gets snow, well, it gets a fall of snow and a lot of it melts. But if it gives anybody any comfort, if you read the history books, Mount Kenya's snows have melted twice because there's been previous global warmings. This isn't our only first global warming. It's part of the cycle of life. So the big glacier of Mount Kenya has melted twice before now. This is the 3rd melting. So just to give you an idea, Mount Kenya at 5199 meters is 17 and 57 feet. So that's about 2,500 feet lower than Mount Kilimanjaro, and it's an extinct volcano. I was taught at school that it's actually the plug of the crater, and it was much, much bigger. It originally rose an estimated 3 million years ago, last erupted an estimated 2.6 million years ago. And Mount Kenya National Park was formed in 1949, and in 1978 the site became a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve before finally being named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997. So that's a bit of information. Look at that those are cyclists there cycling
Beautiful.
towards Mount Kenya. Isn't that beautiful? Just amazing. Amazing, amazing. Now, this is my friend Juliet's house and the view. She's got the view from her veranda It's looking quite small there. It actually isn't
Stunning.
quite so small. There it is. That's her garden there. There's a dam at the bottom of the garden with some ducks in it. And that foliage here, I'm going to show you something just now, but that foliage there is part of the natural Mount Kenya forest. Due to overpopulation in Kenya, a lot of deforestation has happened, but this one's been kept, and a lot of the forest around another mountain range very close by called the Aberdare mountain range. The Aberdares, they are fenced in by electric fencing, and this part's partially fenced in, because what happens is the elephants, there's a lot of elephant in that area. In fact, there's elephant right in that bush. Although we didn't see it, it was present. And I'm going to show you how we know.
We have another comment from one of your
yes,
LinkedIn friends. Yes.
Oh, hello, Rebecca. Thank you. Rebecca is one of my teammates on Your Global Village. She's an authoress and a publisher, Dr. Jacalyn.
Oh, hi, Rebecca.
So I'm going to be able to show you a little bit later. We went walking with the dogs through the fenced electric fence and didn't realize how close the elephants were. When was that? Saturday. I think it was Saturday afternoon. But that's how close everything is there, and you can hear the animals again at night. This is the view. This is the sunrise from my veranda. I'm in a little cottage there, and yeah, that's Mount Kenya silhouetted, and it's all volcanic.
Now, is anything done to the colors there? Or is that authentic? Those colors we just saw?
That's authentic. That was authentic.
Amazing,
yeah.
amazing.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, this is what happened that night. This is the next door neighbor's garden, and the elephants came in. But it's quite a difficult story of balance between people who live a very difficult life off small pieces of land, and then the elephants come in and start eating their vegetables. And so there's always a fierce battle there between the Kenyan people and these elephants. And sometimes the elephants come the worse off for it. And these elephants had come into our neighbor's garden. She's such an interesting neighbor. She puts on operas in Kenya, this lady. We went and had drinks with her the following night after these were taken. But this was in her garden. And
I love
she was visiting
the word garden, because to me, garden is, we've got some tulips here. We've got this is enormous.
Yeah, it's like a 20-acre garden with a dam and surrounded by wild animals. But it's a garden. It belongs to them around their house. It's such a good
Beautiful
point. Okay, and then just to give you some ideas of the animals around there that you don't get in other places. This is a very endangered animal. It's called the bongo. It's an antelope, very endangered, very rare to see, very rare sighting. You can see how beautiful he is, and his bongo, like the bongo drums.
Now, you actually saw this creature and took a picture.
No, this one isn't my picture, but having said that, I can proudly say that where we live in Naivasha, there's a farm that has bongos on it. And often when we're going to the shops, you should see me. I'm like a little child going, oh, they're bongos. They're on the other side. Stop, stop, stop. And Andy and I stop and go, bongos, bongos,
bongos, bongos.
So, yes.
It's interesting how this bongo's antlers look like they're crossed or
twisted.
Yes.
Yes, one wonders why they're made like that. I think maybe to get through, because there's very thick, heavy bush. The forest is heavy and thick and low. It's not high, not all high trees, and I would imagine it's so that it doesn't get stuck in bushes and so on. And of course, these markings here camouflage, and that's their camouflage in that bushy forest. It's all natural forest. And there are even natural cedars in that forest. And Juliet, it was like watching a child filled with delight, because the land they're living on was practically over-farmed by people. And about 15 years ago, a couple came in and bought out all these small little farms, small holdings from people, paid them fairly and handsomely, and turned it into like 20-30 acres. And it's taken all this time for the vegetation to naturally return, and the chopped down, because the cedars were chopped down for firewood for these farmers, the cedars are regrowing. The old stumps, they're starting to grow again. So walking around there was very inspiring to see how quickly, actually, if you think about it, nature does take over again. We think it's all about us, but actually nature's far more powerful than we
We're just
realize.
part of it.
Exactly. So that's the bongo. And then how about this? There's a family in Nanyuki called the Hook family, and many descendants with different names. And they were the first to experiment with donkeys and zebras. So that's called a zonki, that little baby. So it's
Zonky.
half a
Amazing.
zonki, half, and they used, I mean, we're talking about the last century, not like the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th. No, let me get it right. The end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century, the Hook family started breeding these zonkies. And they're very hardy because they've got half wild animal in them, and they're donkeys. And they're used to go up and down Mount Kenya, or they were in those days. I think they still do use them. And then, of course, there are the zebroids. Look at that.
Wow, I've never seen anything like that.
That's a horse and a zebra.
Amazing.
They don't all look as magnificent as that. They normally look more zebra than horse. It depends. But that's like a piebald zebra horse, and they're known as zebroids. That one's a particularly magnificent one. I thought, I have to use that one because I just love it.
Stunning.
I wouldn't mind one like that. So that's the sort of thing that happened with people starting to settle around Mount Kenya, was that experimentation with the wild animals. And then I'm going to take you on to a bit of history lesson, because in the 1930s, that area was being farmed by a lot of settlers who were brought in by the British government, and quite a few that came in from America as well. I mean, the Cotters have the most amazing safari. And in fact, I must invite Calvin to come on this show, because I grew up with him and his cousin. They were like the boys next door, or his cousin was the boy next door. And his grandfather came from America in 1910 and brought Kodak and Eastman out to Kenya on safaris. And the very first safari film was done with Cotters, and Kodak Eastman took it, safari film in Kenya. That's where safari films started. And so this is another story of an American lady in the 1930s who was a millionairess, married to a millionaire in Manhattan with daughters. And she just decided that she didn't want to be that anymore. And she took by boat to Kenya and came to Kenya, from Manhattan to Kenya, through to Mount Kenya. Her name was Rhoda Lewison, and she married Gabriel Prudhomme, who was pretty wealthy, and they got to Mount Kenya and bought this tiny little house from, and I forget her name, it's insignificant, not to her, of course, but she recently lost her husband and wanted to get his body back to UK to be buried. So the deal was that part of the payment for them to buy this land up in Mount Kenya was to ship his body back to UK to be buried. And so Rhoda and Gabriel bought this land, brought down the house, and built that instead. Have a look at that house. And this is the 1930s,
Amazing.
in the middle of nowhere. To get all those materials up to Mount Kenya in those days was quite something. And there are many, many, many bedrooms, all en suite, all with beautiful carpeting and beautiful fittings, and princes and presidents and many famous people have been to there. And eventually she sold in the late 1950s. Now, I don't know if anybody recognizes this actor, but this is William Holden. And she sold it to William Holden. Now, for our younger generation, William Holden was in the Bond movie Casino Royale. He's been in, I can't remember all the movies. He's been in so many movies, very, very well known. He's now passed on. He died actually desolate and alone back in the States. But he and another man, Ray Ryan. Now, Ray Ryan, another American, he was a Texas oil magnate and very well known as a playboy and prolific gambler. Big gambler. Billionaire. And he and William and another partner bought this house and turned it into an exclusive club known as the Mount Kenya Safari Club. So there you can see, this is in the late 50s, early 60s. They put up this special gate and the name. There's Mount Kenya in the background with its snow and those old Mercedes cars. Look at that, quite something. And that's what it looked like when I was a child, the gate. I think it's changed. I haven't been back for some time now. That's certainly what it looked like in the late 60s when I was a child. And there it is. There's the official sign. In the background, you can see the golf course. There's a golf course now. When they turned it into a club. There's the latitude, the longitude, altitude, 7,000 feet. It's very high up. Founded in 1959 for members and guests. Very, very exclusive. So that gives you that. Here is what it pretty well looks like now as dusk is coming in. And there it is with the swimming pool. Now, that swimming pool has an underground window too. So you can go and sit underneath the swimming pool and wave to people swimming by. If they go underwater, they can see you and you can see them, provided they're wearing goggles, of course. So it's really rather special treat to go there. And then, of course, William Holden and Stephanie Powers became an item. They were together for many, many, many years, also American actress. And they ended up settling at Mount Kenya Safari Club. They built bungalows to the side of that house. And they were in the farthest bungalow, right in the middle of the golf course there. And although he's passed on, she still lives there most of the time here in Kenya. That's where she's retired. That's her back in, do you remember in the 60s, Stephanie Powers? Do you remember her, Dr.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. That's her in the late 60s, early 70s. And she didn't just sort of languish there. She decided, she saw what so many people call vanishing Africa because of overpopulation and carelessness and so on. So she started a sanctuary right next to Mount Kenya Safari Club, where they rescue orphaned animals and then release them back into the wild again, so that they're okay. And she still runs that sanctuary, and one can, through various means, visit it, but it's quite exclusive, quite something. So now we go on to Jenetta, a 12-year-old girl as a fly on the wall, because what happened was, when I was 12, one of my school friends, her dad was assistant police commissioner here in Kenya. And I mean, I've got to be honest, there's no way my parents rubbed their shoulders with the rich and famous, like the rich and famous at Mount Kenya. It needs a lot of money. And the chances of me going there at the age of 12 was zilch until I was invited to go with my friend and her dad. And we traveled up to Mount Kenya when I was 12. And my friend and I were put into one of those bungalows to the one side of the main club. And look, we had it was just amazing. And we could just snap our fingers, and we could do whatever we wanted. We were given carte blanche at 12 years old.
I just looked it up, and it looks like the Fairmont Hotel Collection purchased it.
I'll tell you about that just now. You'll get there. We'll get there. So one of the things that really struck me at 12, I think where I was fortunate on one side was that my parents were a lot older than any of my friends' parents. I was a real late child after two. I mean, my one brother is 19 years older than me, and my other is 8 years older than me. So I spent so much time in adult company that I learned, maybe that's where I learned to listen, Dr. JACALYN. I used to listen to all sorts of conversations. So sitting around the pool, you'd hear all these people saying, that's Sam Moritz there. So they'd just say, oh, I've just come from Sam Moritz, and I'd sit there going, I don't know whether to yawn or be impressed or both, because it was really a big, big boast going on. But I was going, wow, I am actually rubbing shoulders with the Sam Moritz crowd of the late 60s. So it was really interesting moving around the hotel as that fly on the wall, because absolutely nobody notices you. You're a kid, and you become see-through. So you get to see a lot of things, and you get to hear a lot of things. And it was like,
lucky
wow.
Jenetta.
Yes. Amazing. And I mean, here, look at the mountain there. There's the swimming pool. As I say, it had an underwater window. That in front is the Kikuyu tribe. Here comes the lightning. So if I get cut off, you'll understand why. Thunder and lightning. So you can see they perform on the lawns. When you're there they are close up. There's a whole story to what they're drumming there and singing. Those are warriors. Kikuyu is a tribe. For some of you might even have Kikuyu grass in other parts of growing in your garden of Africa. That's where Kikuyu comes from the tribe. Here comes the rain. And look at that. You can go on horse safaris around Mount Kenya and have breakfast with your horse. This one's so an older one. Isn't it amazing? Now, here's an older picture with Mount Kenya in the background. Obviously, there's a ranger keeping an eye out for animals, but that's what you can do.
And I hear the rain, Jenetta.
Can you hear it?
I hear it, yeah.
I hope it doesn't get any heavier, because we've got palm tree leaf roof and it gets very noisy. So bear with me. I'll start shouting and you can't hear me.
Beautiful images, Jenetta. Absolutely beautiful.
Aren't they fantastic? And here is that's on the veranda of the main house, on one of the bedrooms overlooking the mountain. You can imagine, as a 12-year-old, I just sat there going, oh, my word, I'm so lucky to be here. So very lucky. Anyway, so I mentioned to stay tuned because of the mafia connection, and it's quite intriguing, really. Chicago's mafia from Al Capone. Ray Ryan, who was in partnership with William Holden, was very in with the mafia, and they kind of secretly took shares in Mount Kenya Safari Club. So I was sitting there with William Holden and Stephanie Powers and my friend's dad, and we're twiddling our thumbs because, in those days you were seen and not heard. And we're listening to all these conversations about the mafia connection and the interaction and what's going on and where it was getting quite dangerous. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, my word, I'm listening to a piece of history here. Unbelievable. So for many, many years, Chicago's mafia partially owned Mount Kenya Safari Club, and not many people knew that. I was that fly on the wall that did know. Not many people knew. And then finally, in what the mafia felt was a double cross, when he did sell, he and William Holden sold Mount Kenya Safari Club. In 1977, Ray Ryan went to the gym at, now let me remember this, Evansville in Indiana. And when he came out and got in his car and started it up, it blew up and he was killed. So a lot of people reckon that was the mob, because he did whatever. I don't know the full story, but I was party to all these conversations and intrigues, because nobody realized I was actually listening at 12. And I didn't tell many people. I kind of got a sense it might be an idea to just keep quiet.
I think so.
I did.
So that's 10 plus for listening skills.
Yeah. And discernment. So the next person on the left that it was sold to was Tiny Rowland, the British entrepreneur who owned Lonhro. He was very much in with the politicians, and Tiny bought it for a while. Not a very popular man either. And then after that, to Adnan Khashoggi, the arms dealer, he bought Mount Kenya Safari. So it went from mafia to a not so kosher British businessman, Tiny Rowland, and then through to Adnan Khashoggi with all his arms deals. And there hangs another tale, but I don't know whether I really should share it here on USA Global TV. I'll reserve judgment for the moment. So that's where it was handed on to, and then it was sold to Fairmont. Fairmont took it on, but now it's actually owned by a billionaire, Kenyan billionaire, known as Humphrey Kariuki. He now owns Mount Kenya. It was sold either last year or the year before last by Fairmont through to Humphrey Kariuki.
So did they keep the name?
Yes, it's still called Mount Kenya Safari Club. The rich and famous still rub shoulders there. I know that most American presidents have been there. Definitely Kofi Annan and all those types of politicians have been there. Just you name it.
Where does one fly into to get there, Jenetta?
Well, you'd initially fly into Nairobi and then you'd take a light airplane to Nanyuki Airport.
Yeah. So it's not that easy to get to.
No, not that easy. And in the early days, it was not easy at all in the late 50s. It really was a safari to get there, quite a safari.
Fascinating.
And I know princes, British princes, European princes, Prince Bernard of, Belgium? He's been there. Prince Philip. They've all been there. And stayed there. It's really quite exclusively amazing, and it's the most amazing experience. And then just to end off, this is our journey from Mount Kenya down to Soisambu, and very close by on the way down is a huge ranch for rhinos called Solio Ranch, and that's only 2. We saw about 30 rhinos, and that really gladdens my heart, because rhinos have been, these will be northern white, I would imagine. We'd have to get my very special friend Kez to back me up on this, because I'm doing a bit of this. But the fact that there were so many so close to the fence, because this is hundreds of acres of ranch, and they were patrolling the fence, keeping eye on these, because as you know, the rhinos have been very badly poached for the eastern market over the years. So they're all intact. Their horns haven't been sawn off. They're really very happy there. So that really filled my heart on our journey down to soy sambu. So if any of you didn't see the previous show, please do tune in and look at the last show, which starts with our arrival at soy sambu down in the Great Rift Valley. Such a beautiful, precious place. So that's basically my my presentation for today.
What a way to spend your time. It's absolutely magnificent.
It's amazing. Yeah, it was like, oh, this is why I cannot leave this country, because it is so rich.
You don't see things like that behind the green screen, I'll tell you that much.
No. I mean, I'm really sharing this with you because, you know, my father poured every single penny into his record producing business. And for those of you who are in the music industry, it's a tough industry. And so every penny went into that. In fact, I know for a fact he mortgaged our house twice for that recording studio. So every penny counted in our household. So my Kenya Safari Club and our family didn't kind of qualify really. And I remember when I was invited to go, my dad took me. There's a very special street in Nairobi known as Bazaar Street. Its real name is Biashara, which means market. And he took me down Bazaar Street, Biashara Street, to a little Indian shop that sold suitcases. He said, "You can't go with the suitcase we have. We're buying you a new suitcase." And I remember being like, wow, I've got a brand new suitcase. And off I went with my brand new suitcase for this experience of a lifetime, really, that I don't think many children have experienced that way, because I was right in with William Holden and Stephanie Power, sitting in the same room with them, listening, and Ray Ryan and all of them.
It's amazing what you have seen and heard in your life that you had to keep to yourself. And years later, here you are on a television show showing the world. I love it.
Yes. I mean, when I was driving along with Juliet, we were visiting various people that we mutually knew, and we drove past Mount Kenya, and she didn't know about the mafia connection. And of course, she's full of writing about the history of Kenya, and she went, "Oh my word, that's such an amazing story." And then I went, "You know what it is? It's a USA Global TV story." So
we do have another comment from your friend Rebecca. Thank you for sharing, Jenetta. Rebecca. This has been fascinating. I know it should be a part of your story.
This is so true. I've been gathering them in note form for some months now, and thank you for reminding me to add it. Thank you, Rebecca.
And Jenetta, I said this on the last show, it's just so heartwarming and impressive. You put so much time and effort and love into what it is that you share with us, and I really respect you and appreciate you for that.
Oh, it's just such a pleasure. It brings me to life, and if it can again make a person's day brighter and give them an idea that there's more than what's happening in front of their nose with all that isn't working around the world, then that's what we're about. So an honor and pleasure.
Absolutely. Any idea what will be presented for the next Global Adventures in 2 weeks?
No. It's, you know, normally I've got my next guest, and it's actually available, probably because I've been away taking it easy. But if you have an amazing, and it doesn't have to be an amazing, it's amazing for you. If you have a story to share or to tell, it might even be in the next town, or it doesn't matter where it is or why it is. It's what it meant to you that you would like to share as part of our global adventure that has a deep meaning for you. You've got no idea how inspirational that can be for others. I mean, not very long ago, I had my 7-year-old granddaughter sharing the elephant that came up onto her veranda, and being able to show how the leopard the leopard spore can be spotted as being leopard, and she's only 7. Or it might be for you, where you went from, maybe you're in a small town and you went to let's say New York, to Manhattan, and to Times Square, and saw a particular show that blew your socks off. Anything where you've had an adventure and an experience, we'd love you to share it with us. And if you'd like to book with us, you can get hold of this show actually on USA Global TV and radio, the website, and book your show, and it'll come up with the Global Adventure Show, and book your slot. I'd love to challenge the first person that can get hold of me, and you can get hold of me directly. Oh, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Here it comes.
Yeah,
there you go.
I was actually just going to walk people through very quickly, because I've actually received some emails this week that people don't understand how to book in. So you can go to usaglobaltv.com or usaglobaltvandradio.com. Both will get you there. And then go across the top to book your session. And this is for anyone and everyone. You don't have to have permission to be a guest. I get emails from people saying, is it okay if I'm on your show? This is my background. We want to support as many people as possible. If your topic is not okay, we'll let you know. But we're assuming that it's going to be something that we want to hear more about. So go to book your session, and you saw that there was a second page, which is where I am. Did I pass it already, Jenetta?
Yes, go up, go back on the left there.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
There.
Global Adventure. So you go here, you go to book your session, and you look for the next available opportunity, which is on the 10th or the 24th. Just go ahead and click it. Notice everything is in Eastern Standard Time Zone. So that's 10 a.m. If you are in the UK, that's going to be 3 p.m. British Summer Time. And Jenetta, what would it be where you are?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Okay, so you just go to book, and then you look here and make sure that you don't have anything else in your cart. Fill in the information. These 3 questions, the answers you give are very, very important. So Jenetta and I understand what it is you'd like to achieve during the show. We want to know how you found us. And then we want to know your bio, your social links. You can send them to info@usaglobaltv.com. When you get down here, this should light up as black in color. If it doesn't, just click the tab button, and then you will get a confirmation that you are booked in for a show. So that's pretty easy, right, Jenetta? Yes. Okay.
It is. It's easier than it feels once you get there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Jenetta, and thank you so much to the people who are watching or listening live. We do appreciate it. This show will be aired again 5 or 6 more times this week. And of course, you can always watch it on our YouTube channel on demand when it suits you, and that's USA Global TV. Our next show is coming up. It's the United Kingdom News and Culture. So please do stay tuned. We actually have back-to-back shows all day today, tomorrow, and Friday. And again, we welcome you to book in on any of our shows at usaglobaltv.com. Thank you so much. Bye, Jenetta. Stay dry.
I just wanted to say, I believe it's Ian who's in the next show. It's his birthday today.
It is his birthday. He's not going to be here today. It's also Caroline Hewitt's birthday. So
okay. I must send her a big hug, and
definitely send them both. All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye, Jenetta.
Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye.